Everybody, happy day. How's everybody doing? It's Friday. Yay. Friday time for Daily Distinction. Glad that you were here and thanks for joining. And hope all is good with you on this Friday. What's going on? Oh, busy day today. I hope you're having a good day as well. Busy day on this end. And that's always good news, right? When it's busy and when it's good, can't beat that. And looking forward to a big weekend. Gosh, it is amazing to me. I'm being from Indianapolis. It is amazing to me to think about the Indianapolis 500, nobody in the stands. Because for so many years, I have gone to the Indy 500 and you stand and you not only do you stand in line to get there, holy cow, the traffic to get in and to get out and everything else going on with the 500. And I can't even fathom what it would be like that the Indy 500 is going to be without fans. So, hey, Brian, great to see you. We're going to bring it on today. Good to see you. Scott, happy Friday to you as well. So glad that you are here. Oh, gosh, Curtis Tonopah. Man, you are all over the place. That is so cool. Ted, happy Friday to you as well. Jerry, great to see you. Your biggest mistake. There's often more than one. How do you categorize them? That's what we're talking about today, Jerry. What's the biggest mistake that you made in business to this point? And I'll share mine with you because I've sure made enough of them. But I'm going to tell you which one I think is the biggest mistake that I made in business. Ted, the Indy 500, yeah, none of us are going this year. That's for sure. I have to tell you, though, it is so fantastic. Everybody, and I mean this sincerely, everybody ought to go at least once. I mean, it is something to see. I'll never forget. I was on a plane one time, and across the aisle was a guy that was a celebrity. And I typically don't, I don't try to bother him or anything like that. But he started a conversation. Oh, why are you going to Indianapolis? And we're just talking. And he said, I got to tell you, he said, the start of the Indy 500 is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, I think it is. But I said, even greater than, he said, it took my breath away even more than when I had my biggest moment in sports. The guy's name, he was a guy at that time, was Bruce Jenner. Now you think about it, here's a guy who won the decathlon in the Olympic Games, one of the biggest, and he said the start of the Indy 500 was more breathtaking to him than the moment when he crossed the finish line to win the gold. I don't know that I believe that, but that's how exciting it is. It's everybody ought to see it once. Darcy, I bet. I totally agree. Yes, there are so many businesses that, it's like we hear about a business that makes or breaks its year based on what happens in the Christmas season. And man, it is that for businesses in Speedway with all of the, 350, 400,000 people coming in for the race. And it's gone, even the folks who live near the track that every year buy their kids Christmas presents from the money that they get from letting people park in the yard to go to the race. I mean, all of those things are just kind of crazy. Oh, I tell you, yeah, I got to go one year, and friends of ours had a suite, and we got to sit in a suite for the 500 for 1 year. And holy cow, it was just it was one of the suites there, Tower Terrace, and it was just amazing. I mean, I usually sat in the stands. Tower Terrace was our place. And there's the other funny thing about the Indy 500 is that fans, like there are fans I know that sit way up high in the fourth turn, and you couldn't put them on the start finish line if you gave them the seats. They just love sitting up high and seeing more of the track. And then there were folks like me that wanted to sit right there at the start finish line. And it's really, really amazing. And saying here, a high school makes $200,000 parking. That what? They make $200,000 a year with parking for the. I'm sure it's what the Indy 500, but also the qualifying and like carb day today and all those kinds of things. So one of the many changes that this pandemic has brought about. Well, we're going to talk about mistakes today, but it would not be a mistake if you decided to get involved with post-pandemic events. I forgot to change this banner because we had a problem with the coupon code. We're going to extend it until next Friday. So next Friday is when post-pandemic events will close because of the problem with the coupon code. The gremlins got in there. If you'd like to save $50 on post-pandemic events, just enter the coupon code. And this one, Brian says, works. It's Iconic 50. If you are a meeting professional, a speaker, financial advisor, salesperson, anybody that's moving from face-to-face to communicating in this manner, it's for you. Postpandemicevents.com. Also, the reminder to save the date, Stand Out, Earn More, the Distinction Summit, October 16 to 18. You can't sign up for it yet, but please save the date. And don't forget the free resources available for you at distinctionnation.com. So, I've never done that. And the helicopter into the track. I did get to do that here in Vegas. Got to tell you. Brian says the code is tested and approved. There you go. It's tested and approved. So this is such a weird thing. When I met Tony Stewart, right? Tony Stewart's a big Diamond Rio fan. And so I was at a Diamond Rio thing and Tony Stewart was there, but he was backstage and it was dark. And I kind of went up to, they took me up to him and said, "Hey, here's another guy from Indiana." And I said, "Hey, Tony, really, really great to meet you. I'm Scott McCain. I, spent a lot of time, used to live in Columbus, Indiana is where Tony Stewart's from." And he looked at me real strange and he went, "Scotty McCain, 1010 WCSI?" "Yeah, that's me." He said, "Man, I listened to you when I was in high school." I thought, well, that makes me feel it. Well, anyway, so he was, Tony has a reputation of being kind of aggressive and out there, but he could not have been nicer to me. Well, anyway, one of the cool things that happened is I got a call and Tony wanted to know if this is when my first wife was dealing with terminal cancer. And Tony wanted to know what I was doing this weekend. And I said, "Well, I'm going to be watching you, on TV in the race." He said, "Well, why don't you go to the race with me?" He said, "We'll bring our mutual friend Dana out here and the three of us will, you guys come with me to the race." So, wow. So we meet him and come to find out I'm on the helicopter with him. So it's Tony and Dana and me riding on the helicopter. And I cannot tell you what it was like to fly into the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and land the helicopter in the middle and get out of the helicopter and walk in there with Tony to the race. But the other funny thing that happened was evidently he and Dana had talked and Dana said, "Man, I can't believe Scott's getting on the helicopter because Scott's not a good flyer. He's kind of afraid to fly." And so we're walking after the race is over. We're walking back to the helicopter to come back to Vegas, to the Strip. And Tony's not saying very much, because he was kind of dissatisfied where he finished with the race, but he was telling me how, he'd been taking helicopter lessons. He was going to learn how to fly his own and, sometime he'd come back and, all this. Well, anyway, so we take off and I'm a little bit of a fearful flyer, and particularly the smaller the plane or the helicopter, I'm just a fearful flyer. So we take off and we just start heading to Vegas. And all of a sudden, Tony sits up real quick and he grabs my leg and he goes, "Oh my God, it's never sounded like this before. What the heck? What's going on?" And I'm just, and then he burst into laughter. He went, "Gotcha." Did he ever? Oh, I thought for sure we were going down. He played, but my heart's racing telling you the story because it felt that way. So, and you mentioned about the helicopter into the track. I had to tell it. So I thought for a minute that was my biggest mistake, getting on the helicopter. That was not my biggest mistake. Here's the point about mistakes. And by the way, I want to recommend a book. I got it somewhere and I couldn't get my hands on it right as we were starting. There was a great book called The Book of Mistakes. I want to say it again. It's called The Book of Mistakes, and it's by my great friend Skip Pritchard, Prichard, Skip Pritchard, The Book of Mistakes. And it talks about how mistakes, what it can do for us, or what it can do if we don't, learn from it, and so forth. So I really want to recommend that as we're talking about mistakes. Here's my biggest business mistake, and I've made a lot of them. All right, but I've always put this first. Well, my speaking career was really starting to expand, and I was also doing movie reviews. As I wanted to learn how to communicate with the camera. I wanted to learn about television. I've always loved broadcasting, and it was a great way to meet celebrities and be involved in that world. And I realized there were certain things that were going on in show business that regular business needed to employ as well. So I wrote and started giving this speech called "All Business is Show Business." And people seemed to really like the speech. It really grew and grew. And I had so many people say, Scott, you ought to write a book about it. Scott, you ought to write a book about it. And I put it off, and I put it off, and I put it off. I put it off for almost 10 years. Then a book came out called The Experience Economy, talking about how businesses were going to have to create experiences. And it said, your business is a stage upon which you perform for your customers. And it was written up in the heart of business. And it was exactly what I'd been speaking about for a decade. But because I didn't write the book first, those authors, Pine and Gilmore, got to plant their flag in the ground about the experience economy, because the book is kind of how you plant your flag in the ground, right? It's how you make your statement. And so I found for me the biggest mistake, and I've made mistakes of things that I've done, certainly, and continue to do so. But the biggest mistake for me was not what I did, it's what I didn't do. Steve Wariner had a country music hit by that. It's not what I did, it's what I didn't do. And I think so many times the mistakes that we make are mistakes that we can learn from and that we can correct and that we can go back. But the mistakes that we make because of things we could have and did not do are the very things that we end up regretting the most, and that we have to discipline ourselves to continue to learn from. I've seen you on an airplane. Love to have seen a pic of you in the copter. Yeah, Bruce, I'm telling you, it's it was not pleasant. Tony's person, his racing hometown is Columbus, your hometown. I know, Darcy, that's where you're from. So you followed and hung out over the years, at least when you're single. Yeah, yep. Tony's great. Hey, good to see you, Carrie. How you doing? Glad that you are here. Randall, even a mistake may turn out to be the one thing necessary to worthwhile achievement. Success is 99% failure. Yes, absolutely. What's the line? Babe Ruth said it was hard to beat a guy that won't quit. And that's the thing. I eventually wrote the book, All Business is Show Business, and it got me started as in publishing and in writing. But I wonder what my career would have been if I would have done it right off the bat. I wonder what my career would have been had I got it done when people first started talking about it. So I guess that's the big message today, is that what is it that you're delaying that in your gut, in your heart, this sounds so syrupy, but even in your soul, that you know that you really ought to be doing? Is there something, some action that you need to take, some step that you need to make, some course that you need to enroll in, some change that you need to make, that you just keep putting it off? Because there is a point where something happens that it's just the timing. I could never recapture that timing. I could never reclaim that thought leadership because of my delays, somebody else got there first. And I'm not saying that they ripped me. That's not my intent at all. Not in the least, because they came from a completely different path to reach the same conclusion. And people do reach the same conclusions coming from different directions. So please don't misunderstand. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that if I had written the book early on, it would have changed so many things. And so what I'm saying is, part of what I've learned is that it's not the mistakes that you make that you end up regretting. It's the mistakes that happen because of what you don't do that still stick in your craw. Does that make sense? And so what is there that you can do? What is there that you should do that needs to become a will do? You may have heard me tell the story before that I was speaking at the National FFA convention, and Zig Ziglar invited my wife and me to dinner. So we're sitting at dinner, and Zig says, well, Scott, I looked before we came and I didn't see your book. And I said, well, Zig, I haven't written a book. And he said, yeah, I haven't either. Well, my wife and I look at each other like, what? Is a poor guy losing it? I mean, we've got 8 of them on the shelf. Zig Ziglar's written so many books. And he said, yeah, I've never written a book, but I get up in the morning and every morning I write 2 pages. And after about 6 months or so, they tell me I got a book. And then he smiled. And it was such a great lesson, because that was the other thing. Why did I not write the book? Because the book seemed so overwhelming. It seemed so daunting to write a book. I'm just from Crothersville, Indiana. Who want to read my book? Why would people want to? But then I started thinking, well, I could write 2 pages. I might not be able to write a book, but I could write 2 pages today and tomorrow and the next day. And I swear to you, the next morning I got up, and in that hotel room in Kansas City, Missouri, I wrote the first 2 pages of All Business is Show Business. And I wrote 2 pages after that, 2 pages after that. But had it not been for this wonderful person just saying, write 2 pages, man, I wouldn't have ever got it started. So what are the 2 pages, so to speak, that you could start today or tomorrow? What is the beginning of the thing that you've been putting off that you could start right now? Because that's my message to you. It's not the mistakes that you make. It's the things that you don't do that are the mistake that you regret. I can at least try to fix the mistakes that I've made. Might be successful, might not, but at least I can try to fix it. But there's nothing I can do to fix the thing I didn't do. I mean, yeah, I can write the book later, but I can never capture that moment again. What if I'd have written it and been a bad book? I could say, I'm going to write another one that's going to be better, but at least I'd have my flag in the ground and the thought leadership for that, as opposed to someplace else. So that same thing can happen to you. What can you do right now that will get you past that delay, the 2 pages that you need to write? Oh, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. You should have immersed my world in the study of differentiation and distinction earlier. Well, hey, you're doing it now. So there you go. That's the main thing. And I've been so blessed. I've been so blessed to have met so many just really, really fascinating, interesting people. I'm just kind of the observer, the vessel that gets to tell that. Oh, Brian, you got 2 self-published books already, at least 1,500 ebooks already written, but fearful of which one to do first. And now, and Brian, there's nothing you can do about how they're going to be perceived. There's nothing you can do about how they're going to be perceived. The market gets to decide. But I will remind you of this. There was a certain speech that was given by a person who was not the keynote speaker. He was just speaking before the keynote speaker. And after his speech was over, it was widely criticized. It was too short. It wasn't powerful. But the keynote speaker, oh my God, this keynote speaker spoke for 2 hours plus, and lots of quotes and comments about how powerful the keynote speaker was. The keynote speaker, who spoke for over 2 hours, was a man named Edward Everett Horton. The short speech that was so roundly criticized, the speaker was Abraham Lincoln, and the speech was the Gettysburg Address. So when something first goes out into the marketplace, how it's going to be perceived is nothing that you have any control over. And that's part of the sacrifice of being an author. When all businesses, show business first came out, there was a review in the Sacramento Business Journal that absolutely ripped it to shreds. It's the way it is, right? And you can either use that as a way to upset you and you never come back, or it's a way to launch you into writing a better book the next time, right? So whatever it might be, whether it's writing a book. By the way, my pal Don Hudson has this fabulous course that's going on right now on how to write your book. It's HUTSON. Do a web search for Don. Just a fabulous course on how to write your first book. But again, what are you willing to do? And Bruce, yeah, the real question is, are you happy? And happy in a number of ways. Happy in the sense of enjoying your life and having a sense of joy. I think it's also happy in the sense of fulfillment, because I think one of the things that keeps people from being happy is being less than they know they could be. That makes sense? When we're less and we're contributing less than we know that we can, when we are performing well under our potential, I think that's one of the things that causes stress and dissatisfaction and everything else. So I think that's an important part of the question. Weldon, it's always great to see you. Hey, Moshe, great to see you as well. So happy that you're here. Thank you for that. So as we go through the weekend, and by the way, don't forget, we have the short check-ins, the weekend edition of Daily Distinction at the same time on Saturday and Sunday. But as we deal with the weekend, maybe it's a good time to be asking yourself, am I making a mistake by failing to take action? What's the mistake that I'm making because I didn't do all that I was capable of doing? Brenda Brennan, good grief, from Franklin College. Great to see you. Not feeling good enough next to others accomplishing the same goals as me. Yeah, and Brenda, I think a lot of times too, to your point, it is the comparison that causes dissatisfaction. So I'm riding Peloton like 4-5 times a week, and my favorite instructor on Peloton is a woman named Hannah Corbin. And one of the things that she keeps advising you as you're riding a Peloton is one of the things I got to keep reminding myself. And she is like, because of the Peloton, they have a leaderboard, right? And you can see how other people and what they've done, how fast they've gone, how much energy they've expended. And one of the things she keeps cautioning you as you ride it is, you don't know how long they've been riding. You don't know what age they are, what kind of shape they are, any of that. So don't compare your second chapter to their 15th. And I thought, man, that's a great life lesson, right? Because, it's so funny. You go on Instagram and you see these people that look like their life is perfect. And then you read something about a challenge that they've had, and I'm like, at the National Speakers Association convention, somebody said to me, gosh, it must be so easy to do like you've done. And I'm like, really? You didn't see that old Thunderbird I used to drive? I bought from a used car lot that I had a bar going across the back to have, to hold the bar that connected the two coat hangers so I had all my clothes there. You didn't see the nights I'd sleep in my car when I'm driving from Dubuque to Ottumwa to give speeches. You didn't see, and I guess that's it. Because so many times we compare, our second chapter to somebody's 15th, and I get it, Brenda. Once we get, I mean, I have younger speakers that compare their career to mine, and I'm like, well, wait till you get, you've done it, Liz. But yet, I have to focus on not saying, geez, I wish I was Tony Robbins. I wish I was, had a Zig Ziglar career. So we all deal with that. We all suffer from that. And I guess I learned more than anything that I need to compare myself against my potential, not against their achievements, because that's the only thing that I can do. Here's a great Will Rogers quote from Will Rogers, Randall Reeder. When you are satisfied, you are successful, for that's all there is to success is satisfaction. Yeah. I wrote in a book one time, I want to be content, but not satisfied. Content means I feel okay with where I am right now. Content means that I'm not stressing myself out, hustling, trying. I want to be content, but I don't want to be satisfied, because satisfied to me means, hey, I'm done. What else could I do here? I'm satisfied with my career, or satisfied with my life, and I want to feel content with where I am now, but I don't want to feel satisfied that I've done it all. Right? Pam, I think you're so right. Social media has ratcheted this up beyond comparison. Yeah, I really feel lucky, Pam. It only took me 20 some odd years to be an overnight success. Thanks. Brian, I hear you. I wish I would have been able to say goodbye to my dad before he passed away. Yeah. I had a similar situation with my dad. That reminds me of one of the things my wife said, was that there was one night we had the TV on, we're sitting there, and she said, I'm really glad about cancer. And I looked at her like, this has been the most horrible thing in your life, my life. And she said, yeah, but she said, at least we got to say everything that needed to be said. If I'd have gone in a plane, we all have to go. So if I'd have gone in a plane crash or a heart attack or whatever, there might be things I wish I would have said to others. And you might be left with a lifetime of thinking of things you wish you would have said to me. And she said, if nothing else, the gift of cancer is that I got to say everything. And I never thought about that before, but I think about it a lot now, because on my dad's side of my family, most all the McCains, it's been a heart attack that's taken them suddenly, and we don't get the chance to say goodbye. That the song "The Living Years" by Mike and the Mechanics, Paul Carrick sings the lead on that. Is just such an incredible message. But I get it, and again, it's a regret of what we didn't do, what we didn't get a chance to do, as opposed to what we did. There's my great pal Derek Kinslow. We were texting last night. Look at you there, you happy couple. You guys are the best. Look forward to seeing you soon, I hope. And Weldon, I love that. Content but not satisfied. That's the key. Be content, but don't be satisfied. Your biggest mistake may often be the things that you didn't do, not the things that you did. So what are you willing to start on? What are the 2 pages that you're willing to write? How are you going to get it launched? Because doing that is going to help bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Derek, you're so right. Don't leave the bucket empty. Let's continue to keep filling it with experiences that make a difference. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll check in quickly on Saturday and Sunday, and see you soon on the next edition of Daily Distinction. I truly appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you watching, and let's try not to make it